Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. I'm Rosanne, your host, and today I have a guest, and I feel like we're going to be here for a while. I have so much to talk to this guest about. It is Hani Cheng, and Hani is a best-selling author, and also is an intimacy coach, a transformation coach. She runs summits, and has created this beautiful sensual liberation program. Her modalities include Tantra, Taoist practices, reconnection with the body. We have so much to talk about. Welcome, Hani, and thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here, everybody. So good to meet you in your cars, chairs, wherever you're listening this at.
Yeah, exactly. I do wonder where everybody listens to this podcast. Is it
On the way, on the toilet, maybe even.
on their commute? I don't know, wherever. I always listen in the car. So, yeah,
Yeah, when I'm walking, I think it's
and
nice
walking.
to.
Exactly. So, honey, I've got so many questions for you, but let's just work out a few things first. Like, how did you get to be this amazing and very popular and highly regarded intimacy coach? What's been your journey to get to this place where
Oh
you
my
are?
gosh. It's just been such a crazy ride going from I tell the story all the time and I want to see if I can do it a little differently today. But I had a 15-year disease and I was in corporate marketing and I had a 15-year disease that no doctor could figure out what the issue was. And then through a lot of self-practice, self-journey, self-discovery, like problem solving, because, exhausted all options, I stumbled across energy work and I stumbled across an inner voice that told me what actually was happening. So in a plant medicine journey, I was like, am I ready to let this disease go? A voice came out, said, yes. I wasn't controlling that voice. And then I saw my path as a transformational, inspirational leader. And at that time, I was not prepared for that. Um, which then told me to package everything that I had learned everything and start sharing that from a perspective of, you know what? You have a truth in you and you need to be that truth and you need to have the guts to go for it. I had never been an entrepreneur. I had never done anything and it set me off on that path. And I said, you know what? I'll try for 6 months and see how it goes. And then 10 years later, here I am. And then, of course, with a lot of heartache and a lot of strife and a lot of struggle. So first I was a business coach and then I was like, you know what? Because I was helping people from corporate to entrepreneurship. Then I became an energy coach because I realized that people's businesses didn't move unless they did the money work, the work that was inside, the self-worth work and the self-love work. And then I was like, you know what? We could do the self-work all night long. And the vulnerability work actually lies in the way that we feel about our intimacy, like how we feel about ourselves intimately, our own personal intimacy is actually what determines our true confidence and how we feel and how we relate to our truth, which is sexuality and sensuality in essence, is how we feel about our relationships and how we feel about like any type of confidence on the outside world. So that voice that said, yes, I'm ready to let this disease go. This disease, in essence, in a metaphor, could be anything that is a lie in our world, right? In my case, I was throwing out 10 times a day, every day for a long time, and that was not cool. And it did go away. But this disease is essentially like our truth, like there's a cost to not following our truth. And our truth, our central truth and our sexual truth, we can tune into it and know it intimately. We can choose not to follow it, or we can choose to be there for it. It doesn't have to be another person. This is the second point, which is it doesn't have to be another person that serves it. We can be the ones who accompany it to life. Sorry, that was like a really long thing. Seriously, and how did I come to it? I just came to it because I realized that, you know what? Um, at the end of the day, I want to help people connect in the places that make the biggest difference. And when I realized that when we trace the root of what sexual freedom and sexual confidence and sensual confidence means, it roots so many millions of layers under self-love. Like self-love is also sensuality. Physical self-love is just there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
Why do we always expect another to fulfill our physical love?
Yeah. No,
It's
very.
already a question, right? And so how did it bring me here? It was just this topic itself was just so cross-functional that I decided that, you know what? If I could support people on this topic that is so dear to them and so taboo and so uncomfortable, yet creates the biggest shifts, then why not create confidence from this place of intimacy within ourselves?
Mm. And this is so fascinating because you're right. Everything comes back to this element of our own self-worth, our own truth within ourselves, as to then how we present ourselves, how we show up in the world, how we communicate. Um, and we are, in essence, sexual beings. That's our, when you peel all the layers of life back, our main aim in life is to continue our species, to reproduce, which involves sex, obviously. So we are programmed to, but we ignore it, and it's been pushed to the side in terms of its acceptability, or it's been minimized. And I feel like so many people have a lot of wounds around their own sexuality, around what is seen to be right. We were brought up essentially, it wasn't that long ago that we were all brought up, in the West anyway. Well, I'm speaking from my own perspective in England, a very Victorian, it was not that many generations ago that there was the Victorian prudishness around sexuality. And this sort of big overarching realization that this our sensual and sexual energy feeds into everything in our lives, I think is a huge part of the healing puzzle, because it is a puzzle, when we
It
come to
is a renewable energy source. If we were to look at wind power, solar power, like what other force within our life, like it's not coming from food. We're not getting like sexual energy is coming out of like sensation, right? It's a sensation powered battery. And it's sometimes we call it oxytocin, right? There's like love chemicals, new relationship energy, um, crush energy. And there's also that deeper developed secure love attachment that creates a lot of juicy, sustainable energy in our lives. And so we're looking at how to live efficiently. In my first book, You Only Live Once: Life in Business Innovation Style, I have this like image of this heart that's lit up, but I think it really should be a genital that's lit up. And it like pours down this like gush of like waterfall that goes and flows into every pool of your life, whether it's your vision, your team, your clients, and it really pours down your energy. And then at the end, there's this little reservoir that's called the energy management system that then recycles that water back up like a fountain and like a waterfall fountain, man-made plus natural. And and so yeah, you're absolutely right. Like there's this incredible energy source that is within us, and sexuality doesn't have to mean penetrative sex. Some people are asexual and can still have intimacy within themselves.
Mm,
And so it's what we're really talking about is the multidimensionality of sexuality, not just
the
um,
sex.
the sex, not just heterosex, not just homosex. It's just, it literally is beyond sex, and it is sex, and it also is, all the peripheral or all the, intellectual sex, like emotional sex, just like the merging of energies, the co-creativeness of it, the acceptance and inclusivity of it. It's the creative energy that we're looking at. And when we're
Mm,
talking about creating species, this human race, we are actually alluding to the sense of creating a whole new world, right? When you're creating a new being into your family, you're creating a whole new world, a whole new unit. And when you're creating not beings and projects instead, or ideas, or your mission is to create a different, uh, like a powerful drive towards like a cause or a future that you see this world desperately needs because this world is what it is right now, then that's also that's also a driving force. And when we can accept ourselves and know ourselves at such a high level or such a honest level,
Yeah.
and then it's easier to align that genuinity and that honesty to the direction that we're going in, to face the truth and
Mm,
to look at the truth and to heal the traumas and the wounds that are inhibiting us to
mm,
see the truth. One of the biggest wounds, I think we were talking about, like some of the potential traumas and the blockages to that is what can block our true love. Like if we really truly loved ourselves or our loved ones, what are some of the trip ups,
mm,
crunchy things that can pull us out of that safe and open and expressive love, right? To make us feel threatened or defensive or aggressive or fight or flight, right? Those are trigger patterns. So some of the wounds that can easily pull someone out of that feeling of safety and get into a really interfered state is how we describe it in our work. Because we have in my work, we call ourselves or we connect to a part of us that is the infinite being, which some people call it the higher self, or your God self or whatnot. Well, for me, like for our work, we'd like to call it the infinite being because it's the part of us that's like you're really looking at everything from a perspective of,
that's
limitlessness.
crown chakra connection, essentially.
Yeah,
What we're talking about there.
exactly. And beyond even, you're even lifting it beyond the contract a little bit higher, right? Stars and that galactic part of you. And
Mhm.
then we also have the infinite body, which is sensation, but it's also not just here, but it's also sort of like more out there. So you're really expanding your awareness of your body. And then we have our infinite pleasure, which is not just your genitals, but also connected to maybe a little bit behind, a little bit forward, kind of like outside as well. So you're not just primal and in the amygdala or in the reptilian brain, but you're also sort of allowing yourself to have this cosmic transcendental potential for love. And so the trauma patterns, top three are rejection and abandonment wounds.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I
this
think
is so
I'm just
annoying.
putting on a checklist. Yes. Yeah.
So annoying. Like it gets to the best of us. No matter how senior you are in personal development work, each cycle can bring up some of those, right? If you are sharing every ounce of your love to your loved one or to your loved one, to yourself as well, and
Mhm.
then someone's not as interested or they don't respond with the same way or, something happens, you're just like, oh, like, is it okay for me to still be myself? And you get kind of like arrested. It's almost like a whiplash when you don't receive the security that you're looking for or the reciprocation that you're looking for or the same amount of effort or the same amount of regard or the appreciation. If suddenly your person doesn't desire you anymore, you're like
Yeah.
hello. You For an anxious person, they'll like slam in their face with all of their body parts. For an avoidant, they'll do silent treatment, and then there's the whole variation in between as well. Um, so
Yeah.
rejection and abandonment wound, jealousy and comparison wound, another
Mm.
one. Jealousy, if you're in a poly situation, they're like meeting someone who's like way better than you in terms of financial and sex and all that kind of stuff. Or if you see other people who they're hanging out with, or just like a lot of random jealousy,
Oh, there's so much.
unnecessary comparison
But
wounds.
there's also, in that sense, the comparison that you of yourself with others, in terms of how you manage your own self-love, and that really impacts how you feel about yourself when you go, oh, that person's, taller than me or thinner than me or got better boobs than me or whatever it is. Like, we can then minimize our own beautiful assets and what we are as a whole human being because we're comparing ourselves to somebody else. And so that's yeah, speaks to the self-love part of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the part that is also coming turning back into self-acceptance and understanding our worth. And at the same time, also the fear of being replaced, right? Comparison also lends to the fear of being actually replaced and how and then it goes into existential, which is the fear of abandonment and rejection, and it starts spiraling in that direction.
Mm.
So those are the few. And then, of course, there's also the shame around desire and sensuality, um, which is sometimes not even allowing ourselves, and I see this a lot in women, to even understand what desire is outside of the
Yeah,
construct and the representation on media or porn. There is this sense of like, um, labeling of what pleasure and desire is as opposed to
yeah,
what's authentically, organically there. Because your terrain of your vagina or
mm,
your penis can be vastly different from anything you've seen before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
think
that's mhm.
I find shame a really, we've got abandonment, jealousy, shame. Those pretty much, I mean, there probably are other wounds, but I think those are the headlines that will cover the majority of wounds around our relationship with our sensual self. Um, and I've always thought, and I'd be interested to get your point of view, that shame is also can be quite a generational thing. It can be like an ancestral wound, like something that's been passed down. I feel like when we have shame around it, it's not necessarily ours, it's been given to us somehow. Does that track with how you feel about that particular
I
or
see. So, from my perspective, or how we teach it, emotions, there are authentic versions of emotions, and then there's also looping emotions. Looping emotions have a tendency to grow the more you look at it, and it gets and more intense. It's like almost like when a kid falls down and you're like, "Are you okay?" And then they go, like
yeah.
that. So there's like that type of shame. And then there's also like an authentic shame where it's like when you feel it all, then it dissipates. So certain emotions just need a safe space to express themselves. So I think those are your authentic shames. And if you have a shame that gets larger and larger every time you think about it, then that becomes we would call that a looping emotional projector, which is basically it could be ancestral, it could be societal, it could be a construct that, like media is feeding into the shame of women not being enough, right? And so there's that. And then there's also shame around just feeling that there's wrongness in pleasure in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you're not supposed to be feeling that, especially not if you're enjoying it. And you're not
Yeah.
supposed to be enjoying life so much. And you are wrong for like doing that if you are meant to be earning money, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And all of these wounds, what I find really interesting about this is that there's all of these wounds sit very differently within our energetic body when we start to sort of relate them to the chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of there's a lot of the essence of our sexuality and sensuality that resides down in the sacral chakra, um, and in the hips and
Yes.
in the reproductive organs, obviously. But, the shame and guilt, or abandonment fears, like all of these other things that block us, they can often live elsewhere in the heart. That abandonment very much that lives in the heart chakra because that,
Abandonment can live in the heart chakra. Shame can live around the throat as well, to
yeah,
not be able to speak up.
yeah.
And
There's a lot of what you've said about this authenticity is like finding your authentic voice or your authentic connection with your
with these
sensuality.
body parts,
Yeah,
yeah.
and our authenticity for me resides very much in the throat chakra. It's very much about how you are able to express your authenticity, how you can communicate your authenticity, because communication, when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to, you know, sex, communication is everything, like and I don't want to be generalizing here too much, and I'm on the verge of it, I think. So stop me if I'm wrong, because I am not the expert here. You are. Um, but for women, certainly that. what turns us on is communication, is being having that emotional connection, which is through authentic communication, feeling safe. And that's a root chakra. Safety is in the root, authenticity in the throat, communication in the throat. But being able to have the power, to have the sense of self and self-esteem to really connect with your authenticity and like push it out there. It comes from the solar plexus. This is like the whole body involved, of course, because the whole body is involved in all of the
The
energetic
whole
work.
body is involved in everything, and there are definitely ways to make that easier. So, in our module 3 of the Central Liberation Program, we talk about 8 different frameworks of communication so you can have the vocabulary to describe what you're wanting.
Mm,
Or even if some triggers come up, or if the abandonment wound, jealousy, comparison wound, shame comes up, how to actually deal with that in real time. And it's
yeah.
not easy, and yet there is a framework, so it's easier to understand how to navigate when you face something like that,
Mm.
which is very beautiful and healing. And some people are willing to do that work to go through that healing, and some people it seems very intimidating.
Yeah.
And it is to say that on the other side of discomfort and triggers, whether it's rejection, abandonment, jealousy, comparison, or shame, is beauty, is
Mhm.
natural flow. So I made a lot of men who they want to do this work, yet they're so challenged because it's like the first time that they're meeting their emotions. And each one of them, when they finally decide to face it, it's actually not that difficult. It just
Yeah.
takes a couple of moments. But to get to the point of, you know what, I actually want to look at this, it takes a lot for some people.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And and I feel like that place of letting go so that you can do the work means stepping out of your what is perceived as safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think we think and bless the ego. It's only trying to keep us safe. It's only trying to minimize us, keep us down into a safe place. But we do need, however, to feel safe within our sexual world, with ourselves and with others, with partners.
Safety is the most important, one of the most important aspects of experiencing sacred, authentic sexuality. So,
Mm.
not a performative sexuality, which is what we talk about in Tantra a lot.
Yes.
Instead of having it be a performance and a show, if you're really looking at a kind of orgasm or a kind of pleasure or kind of intimacy or connection or a kind of love that is unfolding, that is present, that it feels like magic, we're looking at parasympathetic nervous system, calm nervous system, the absence of insecurity, envy, fear of being less than. These are all like the jealousy, comparison, like the absence of these traumas, which means that your sacral is open, your solar plexus is open, your heart is open, your
Mm,
root is open, your throat, your third eye, everything is open. And in this open space, in an open chakra space, energetic environment, that's when waves of energy can flow easily throughout your body, just like how healing can flow.
mm,
Sexuality can flow, sensuality can flow. Then, with your flowing energy and his or her flowing energy, or the non-binary flowing energy, then you get to really experience what two flows, uninhibited, safe, safe flows feel like as they're intertwining.
mm,
And that becomes a magical space because then what you're experiencing is unique to the
mm,
moment. It is unscripted and it is spontaneous at its
mm.
essence. And um and it's authentically confident because there is no
I mean, that's a place that we all, aspire to, surely, within our sexual lives, is to have that flow, that beautiful flow of energy between the two people who are having the intimacy. And I want to ask you about modalities. And I know that breath work has to be, and I know that it is a vital part of the piece here.
Yes.
So let's talk about the importance of breath work within this work, because, Tantra, which is obviously something that you have worked with a lot and you teach and know, um, is such a beautiful space where we connect with the breath. Talk to me a little bit about how you introduce that and what a sort of an entry level. um
Yeah. So in Tantra, we do a lot of eye gazing, a lot of connecting with the divine, in terms of like the looking at the person beyond the person and what their infinites look like or
yeah,
feel like. The breathwork practice that I really like to introduce to my students is actually comes from the Taoist practice, and that is the cultivation of sexual energy. And that comes from the idea that sexuality and sexual energy, as we spoke about in the beginning of the session, is precious. It's energizing, and most of the time, what I've used it, and a lot of my students have used it for women, is to cultivate the arousal, to enhance and to express the arousal more,
yeah,
because it's sometimes a little bit more challenging for women to get in touch with their desire and arousal, whereas for men, it's about to not control, to recycle and to dissipate the arousal so that they don't go over so quickly.
yeah,
So they're sort of like we need to meet on the same page, and by doing that, we need to regulate our arousal so that it can like be in sync with each other if we're
exactly.
talking about
Yeah,
heterosexual encounters. And then, so it wasn't only until recently that I realized that in my self pleasure practice, I was actually in a dance class and I had this heightened state of arousal because I was just practicing some new spots um, within my internal walls, and that I realized that, oh my gosh, I actually am buzzing with the sensation and I need to actually regulate it in a different way so that I can actually focus in class. And so this practice is called it's called the yummy draw, and it is inspired by the idea of, that there is a power center underneath our three bellies, below our belly. And in Chinese, we call it the dantian. In the chakra system, it would be three fingers below your belly. What's that one?
that's the sacral chakra. Yeah,
Exactly. That's the sacral.
the
So
chakra.
whatever modality you use, there we go. We have
Yeah,
a chakra there. There is an energy. Whether you're in Vedic tradition or you're in Chinese traditional medicine tradition, there it's there. And so what we're really doing is we're pulling up the perineum. We're going over the spine. This is also one of my Taoist teachers, Mantak Chia. This is the way he teaches it. And then it goes over the crown and then down the face, and then you exhale it three fingers below your belly. And you also want to ground it. For beginners, we really want to ground that energy so it doesn't short circuit. So residual energy goes down. So what you're doing is you're drawing up the energy over the head and then down. So if you want to try that, go for it. So you can just take a deep breath in, drawing your perineum up. And then as it gets to the top of your head, you switch your breath into the exhale all the way down, three fingers below your belly.
I can definitely, it definitely connects.
So it
Awareness.
gives you, yeah,
Yeah.
a sense of embodiment.
Mhm.
And it gives you a sense of connection. And if you do longer breaths, so I always ask my clients to lengthen their breaths, then you can even relax into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because that is, often when when I'm teaching yoga, or I'm teaching a breath work within a yoga class or even a meditation, I often invite that drawing up, and I quite often say from the pubic bone, because people kind of know where that is, from the pubic bone upwards across the crown of the head and then down the back of the body, down to back to the root. And that connectivity, that sort of deep, I don't know, it's a that's it's a cycle. We are cyclical beings, but just finding that cycle and deepening the breath into it is a beautiful practice. I've never thought of it in terms of um this awakening a sensuality within us, but I can totally understand, because it's all about intention. It's about intentionality. If you're doing it just with the idea of getting the energy flowing or opening the front of the body or like just relaxing, then that's probably what it will do. But if you do it with the intention of stirring your sensual energies, then it will absolutely, I can see it definitely, I've just witnessed it do that. So I love.
And that really helps with the wounds as well. When you're having abandonment feelings show up, when you're having clinginess show up, when you're having withdrawal, so low self-worth, or when your hypervigilance is acting out, and you're
Mhm.
having difficulty feeling safe, try this to center yourself, to
Yeah.
really dissipate the energy. Because sexual energy is a high amount of energy. And when it's even a negative high amount of energy, you want to do that to then like discharge the energy. So
Yeah.
then you would send it to the ground.
Beautiful.
Um, and then envy, insecurity, fear of being less than, emotional volatility, fear of betrayal, controlling behaviors. These are all behaviors that you can also breathe into, go through your chakra system, and then send it all the way through the second chakra down into the earth.
Yeah. Yeah, give Mama Earth what you don't need. It's something that I don't probably say enough, because good old Pachamama will take on all of our crap. It's fertilizer for her. She loves it, and we don't need to feel guilty about giving it. Like, give it, 'cause she can take it. And you're absolutely right. There's so many, like, all these little insecurities, little wounds that we have around our sexuality. We just need to decide, make that intentional decision that we're going to, that we can shift it, that we can move it, we can give it away. And I wanted to ask you about, because I love the fact that you use this work, this really beautiful sensual work, this, divine sexuality work, to connect with work life, with
Yes.
leadership. So let's speak to that a little bit, because I find that fascinating. Like, how does this work on our own sensuality and our own sexuality um, go out? How does it impact into the rest of our lives, where we do not want to be sexual? We don't want to be in that
Yeah,
intimate
so
place.
we don't want to be overtly sexual, so we're not trying to put our genitals into other genitals,
Yeah,
or vice versa. Like that's not the point when you're converting it into leadership. The whole purpose is we're using the energy to become more of us. So you're using the energy to become more of you. And some people find that very threatening because they don't want their work professional lives to be about them. They want to be this other persona. And
yeah,
so that would be challenging. This is more for people who want to express power from an authentic place. And so it turns on your manifestation power because creation is sexual energy. So how to say this in very clear terms. One, your presence is going to increase when you cultivate your sexual energy. Presence of being clear and memorable and being able to hold your vision and communication will be
mm,
more connective.
yeah,
Of course, you have to work on your communication skills, you got to work on your vision and all that. But along with the sexual energy that powers it, it's like, powered by Intel, powered by whatever, right? Powered by you. And
yeah,
so there's this essence of like when you do your work day to day and you have it powered by this positivity and this creative sexual energy is additive, right? It doesn't take away something, it adds to your
yeah,
life. So when you're taking it from a perspective of a genuine, authentic one that is adding to your life, then it will add juice to your life, add uniqueness, add more of you. So presence. Secondly, it gives you more solutions rather than problems because it
mm,
gives you more resilience as well. When you're filled up and you're coming from a place of abundance and overflow of love, let's say you give yourself self pleasure love, then you're coming from a place of fullness. You're not reaching to your team or reaching for KPIs to fill your self-worth, to fulfill your status or your validation or your external need for recognition, right? You already feel that. And so those numbers then become just a mirror of who you have already filled up within you. And you are going for it, not from a place of desperation, but from a place of inspiration.
Yeah.
And it's a different. Of course, some people like to be pushed, which is totally cool too. And some people like to be pulled, some people like to be drawn, some people, it just depends what relationship you want to have with your goals
Mm.
and your vision. And then thirdly, when you are able to communicate with your most intimate partners, which I also consider inside of the just big circle of sensuality, sexuality, and have a really good relationship in your home life, then the rest of the world is easy.
Yeah. 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 I mean, for me, everything that you said is I completely, it makes perfect sense. But what is coming up for me as you say this is just this really beautiful, deep relationship with the divine feminine. And I'm not gendering that, because men and women, and however you define yourself, everybody has that divine feminine energy. And for me, divine feminine energy is the most powerful, because it does all of everything that you've just talked about. It brings us from a sense of truth and ourselves. It brings us from a place of, like, we don't, there's no grasping, there's no kind of neediness, because we're already very centered in our own power. That divine feminine power is goddess like, if you and I don't mean this, men have that creativity, that nurturing, that sense of power within as well. But it's, yeah, that's just what comes up for me when you talk about this, is the divine feminine. And I always, with my clients, I always work with their inner goddess, because that is an embodiment, imagined embodiment of their divine feminine, and it speaks so much to how they perceive themselves. That divine inner goddess can be anything from, like, a literal queen to, a little nymph in a woods, but whatever it is, it really speaks deeply to how they perceive themselves in that the sense that you're talking about.
It's beautiful. I mean, the powerful women, or some of them are entrepreneurs, whether they're like total leaders and badasses, or they're just, very just kind human beings. When we do this work internally and connect them to their inner goddess or their inner pleasure, or allowing pleasure to lead, when we're
Mm.
listening to our pleasure and engaging with our pleasure from a space of curiosity, that type of relationship we have with our bodies is unparalleled. Nobody else in our lives will have this level of compassion, understanding, and patience with our pleasure. And this is with a man or a woman, with yourself, right? No partner will be able to have that level of exquisite precision and experience with you than you can with yourself. And when we do that work, I see women and men watch their business plans get approved, watch their family relationships, like it's almost like the Red Sea parting. Like it's just like from chaos and drama to um, stability and somewhat authentic communication where previously was unimaginable.
Yeah.
And there are certain cases where you see it ripple through um, the type of people they choose in their lives to relate to in relationships. And then there also this level of self-trust that emerges, because now you can listen to your sensation and you can take care and you can connect. And then there's less things to be worried about.
Yeah. I think this is so beautiful, because I think society has encouraged us to operate, especially in the work world and in terms of, leadership and, as you say, things like getting projects approved and business plans funded and all of those kind of things, it has eschewed the merits of a very masculine energy. So, a very outward, achieving numbers, logic, growth. Like we've been encouraged, I guess probably since like the 80s, 70s, maybe, that was the way to succeed, to embrace the masculine energy of action and doing and power. And as as I was saying, that about this divine feminine power that has been, was pushed to the side. And what I'm hearing you say, which I think is just so inspirational, is that actually when we embrace that divine feminine energy, when we embrace ourselves physically, sexually, sensually, that power is greater than any, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to grasp for the words, but, any kind of forceful, logical, mathematical way forward. Because energetically, we're leading with an authenticity and a power that is undeniable.
It is true, as in like it is powerful for you if that's true for you. So we're coming back to what is the true configuration of your operation system,
Mm.
right? And then we're coming back to the topic of truth, which is maybe for one person that they are on a journey of 100% being true to themselves. Another person might be on a journey of 80% truth. Another person might be on a journey of 50% truth, right? And so consciously choosing the level of alignment you want with your truth is then setting the level of power you desire to experience from sensational, sexual, sensual truth alignments, and then the outside drivers. So I feel like the more daring you are and the more you feel called to do this work, you're
Mm.
likely getting to want to explore. And the more you get wins when you get closer, 50%, 60%, 70%. Oh God, I'm like, this hard work. I have to face more triggers, but I can get through to this. Okay, okay. I actually do support people's freedom. I really don't need to be jealous about this. Okay, what is the inner work? Okay, let me try to get through this comparison trap. Oh, this is so hard. Oh my God, I'm getting triggered again. I'm just out for a week because I'm in my little misery ball. And then you get through the other side and you get through, and then you really get to experience what life feels like in truth
Mm. I love that.
without these things that are flailing you left, right, and center. And you get to experience what peace feels like. Actually feels very peaceful.
Peaceful, yes. Oh, absolutely. There's so much quiet and
Less
relaxed.
noise in your head.
It's just a nicer place to be. I don't know. I was reading something the other day that just sort of said, just live in a way that's relaxed and nice. How can things be more relaxed and more nice? I'm like, yeah, I like that. But there's, but you're right, when you're connected. So what I wanted to ask you was, I've asked you a little bit about the modalities that you use,
Mm.
but I want to ask you again a bit more about what modalities you use with your clients and so on. Like,
I
I've
use,
seen
yeah, go
videos of you
ahead.
dancing, and I know that dance, I mean, for me, like if someone comes with a blocked sacral chakra, I'll say kitchen disco immediately. Just shake your booty, like, nobody's watching, literally nobody's watching. Just dance, move your hips. But tell me some more. Tell me a bit
I
more
definitely
about.
love dancing. I love energy work, energy activations, like literally commanding energy in or out and killing interference, which is I
Live.
do this very, very advanced system of energy work that is so powerful that that is that's probably like the combination and the accumulation of like 33 different modalities plus like, more. Um, anyway, whatever. It's just so cool because you're really able to get to the root of some of these things in a way that is very meta and very precise at the same time. Like you can see it from above and you're also surgically precise. So you're just really pulling out the weeds of these constructs that are creating tension in your body. whether it's shame, jealousy, abandonment, rejection, comparison, or desire related. So energy work, and then breath work, and
Mm.
then self pleasure is my secret weapon.
Okay.
I always have a self pleasure practice for those who dare to experience their own genitals power.
Yeah. I think that's I think that's probably the most powerful thing you can do to take ownership of your own sexuality and your own sensuality.
And it usually takes people a couple of weeks before they actually get into the rhythm. And in that process, we get through all the blocks that need to be cleared
Mm. So
because
how
there's resistance.
well, yes, of course, there's going to
It's
be
like,
resistance.
why do I have to do it for myself? Like, it's like if you set a date with some other person, you'll show up. But if you set a date with yourself, sometimes you don't. Most of the time, you don't. So it's like, why? Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 exactly. So do you have like a program where people can sign
Yes,
on
I
and
have a central liberation program. We go into
give
all the
them
juicy details.
homework? Do you have
Homework. We do it one on one, do it in groups, and it's just all about diving in deep with all these topics, going into erotic flow. Second module is all about the energy work piece, sexuality, and all the constructs that could be holding it back, including what you were saying, genealogical lineage, everything you can think of. And then
Mm.
the third is about communication, 8 frameworks. Fourth is about expanding pleasure and all of the other multi-orgasmic ways. We also teach like different places you can find orgasm through your self pleasure practice. Fifth one is setting up a ritual, how to do that with yourself and with a partner. So it's like beginning to end multi steps. And then the last one is sex magic, which is leadership. How do you bring this energy consensually to in a way that's win-win-win, not stepping over boundaries and still show up as the powerful person that you are.
I love this. This is sounds like such a powerful path. I have to say, it sounds really, really fascinating. Where can people find you, Hani?
They can find me on tantrasingapore.com, https / tantrasingapore.com, yoloabundance.com, and just search Hani Cheng on YouTube. These are some places you do get a 4 video free series when you go to tantrasingapore.com and you search for intimacy coaching. Then it shares with you a 4 part video that shares more about the program with you as well.
Yeah, no, I started that this morning. I was like, oh, I'm going to get into this when I've got a moment.
Thank you.
Tantrasingapore.com. Thank you, honey. I feel like I've literally only just scratched the surface. I feel like I want to dive into your world. I want to know more. I'm fascinated. I'm grateful and
You're so kind. Thank you.
inspired. So thank you, honey. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for hosting and asking such great questions. And listeners, I hope this sparked and tickled a lot of your fancies.
Thank you, honey.